Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Gaur Pivanandi Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Tri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki
Jai.
Skandibiti Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Namasarya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki
Jai.
Harinama Sankirtan Ki
Jai.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki
Jai.
Jai Gaura
Hari
Premanande
Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees
Hare Krishna.
all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Palakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vitam Syam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Sarasatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Tato Jaya Mudiraye.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasha Badreshu
Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Tamashloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki.
By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama
Idam Bhagavatam Nama
Puranam Brahma Samitam
Puranam Brahma Samhitam
Uttama Shloka Charitam
Uttama Shloka Charitam
Chakara Bhagavan Rishi
Chakara Bhagavan Rishi
Nishreyasaya Lokasya
Nishreyasaya Lokasya
Dhanyam Swasyaya Namaha.
Adhannam Swasaya Namaha.
This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Rama Rama Hare Hare
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Surabhyaya Namaha
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 Mukam karoti vasalam pangam nangayate girim Yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. We have started new chapter. Which is chapter 10, the departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. Yes. Text number 2.
Yes.
Sutta Uvacha
Sutta Uvacha
Vamsham
Vansham
Kuror
Kuror
Vamsha
Vamsha
Davagni
Davagni
Nirritam
Niritam
Samrohayavitva
Samrohaitva
Bhava
Bhava
Bhavano
Bhavano
Harihi
Harihi
Niveshayitva
Niveshayitva
Nija
Nija
Raja
Raja
Ishvaro
Ishvaro
Yudhistiram
Yudhishtiram
Krita
Krita
Mana
Mana
Babhuva
Babhuva
Ha
Ha
Sutta Uvacha
Sutta Uvacha
Vamsham Kuror Vamshadavagninirritam
Vamsham Kurur Vamsha Davagni Nirhitam
Samro Samrohayitva bhavabhavano harihi
Samrohitva bhavavano harihi
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Yudhistiram pritamana babhuvaha
Yudhishtiram pritamana babhuvaha
Sutta uvacha
Sutta vacha
Vamsham kurorvamshadabhagninirdhitam
Vansham kururvamshadavagninirhitam
Samrohayitva bhavabhavano harihi
Samrohayitva bhavavano harihi
Nivesayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Niveshayitva nirajya ishvaro
Yudhistiram pritamana babhuvaha
Yudhishtiram pritamana babhuvaha
Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
Vamsham kururvamshadabhagninirdhitam
Vansham kururvamshadavagninirhitam
Samrohayitva bhavabhavano harihi
Samrohayitva bhavavano harihi
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Yudhistiram pritamana babhuvaha
Yudhishtiram pritamana babhuvaha Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
Vamsham kururvamshadavagninirhitam
Vamsham kurorvamshadabhagninirdhitam
Samrohayitva bhavavana harihi
Samrohayitva bhavabhavano harihi
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Yudhishtiram pritamana babhuvaha
Yudhistiram pritamana babhuvaha
Sita uvacha
Sutta uvacha
Vansho kururvanshadavagninirhitam
Vamsham kurorvamshadabhagninirdhitam
Sarohayitva bhavavano harihi
Samrohayitva bhavabhavano harihi
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Niveshayitva nijarajya ishvaro
Yudhishtiram pritamana babhuvaha
Yudhistiram pritamana babhuvaha Sutta uvacha
Sutta uvacha
Sutta Goswami replied
Sutta Goswami replied
Vamsham
Vamsham
dynasty
dynasty
Kuro
Kuruha
of King Kuru
of King Kuru
Vamshadava Agni
Vamshadavagni
a forest fire
fire
set by the bamboos
set by the bamboos
near Ritam
Niritam
exhausted Samrohayitva
Samrohayitva
seedling of the dynasty
seedling of the dynasty
Bhavabhavanaha
Bhavavanaha
the maintainer of creation
the maintainer of creation
Harihi
Harihi
the personality of Godhead the Sri Krishna
the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna
Niveshayitva
Niveshayitva
having established
having reestablished
Nijaraje
Nijaraje
in his own kingdom
his own kingdom
Ishvaraha
Ishvaraha
the Supreme Lord
the Supreme Lord
Yudhistiram
Yudhishtiram
unto Maharaj Yudhishthira
unto Maharaj Yudhishthira
Pritamanaha
Pritamanaha
pleased in his mind
pleased in his mind
Babhuvaha
Babhuvaha
became Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
Sutta Goswami said, the Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the maintainer of the world, became pleased after re-establishing Maharaj Yudhishthira in his own kingdom, and after restoring the Kuru dynasty, which had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. Bamboo fire of anger. Kindly repeat after me. Sutta Goswami said,
Sutta Goswami said,
Lord Sri Krishna,
Lord Sri Krishna,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
who is the maintainer of the world,
who is the maintainer of the world,
became pleased after re-establishing Maharaj Yudhishthira
after re-establishing Maharaj Yudhishthira
in his own kingdom,
and
after restoring
after restoring
the Kuru dynasty,
the Kuru dynasty,
which had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. Purport. This world is compared to a forest of fire caused by the cohesion of bamboo bushes. Such a forest fire takes place automatically, for bamboo cohesion occurs without external cause. Similarly, in the material world, the wrath of those who want to lord it over material nature interacts, and the fire of war takes place, exhausting the unwanted population. Such fires or wars take place, and the Lord has nothing to do with them. But because He wants to maintain the creation, He desires the mass of people to follow the right path of self-realization, which enables the living beings to enter into the kingdom of God. The Lord wants the suffering human beings to come back home, back to Him, and cease to suffer the threefold material pangs. The whole plan of creation is made in that way. And one who does not come to his senses suffers in the material world by pangs inflicted by the illusory energy of the Lord. The Lord therefore wants His bona fide representative to rule the world. Lord Sri Krishna descended to establish this sort of regime and to kill the unwanted persons who have nothing to do with His plan. The battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of the Lord, so that undesirable persons could get out of the world and a peaceful kingdom under His devotee could be established. The Lord was therefore fully satisfied when King Yudhishthira was on the throne and the seedling of the dynasty of Kuru, in the person of Maharaj Parikshit, was saved. Translation again. Sutta Goswami said, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the maintainer of the world, became pleased after re-establishing Maharaj Yudhishthira in his own kingdom, and after restoring the Kuru dynasty, which had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. Very pertinent text and purport here given by Srila Prabhupada. So Shonaka, in the verse we started with yesterday, Shonaka Muni is asking Sutta Goswami that what happened after what happened after Maharaj Yudhishthira was enthroned as the emperor. How did he actually rule? Because he and his brothers, as we were discussing the last few days, were subject to so many injustices and ill-treated, put into all types of dangers. Ultimately, the cause being the type of mentality that Duryodhana was displaying, which was not based on the principles of Dharma, and that was supported, of course, by Dhritarashtra. So here, the main message being given is that Sutta Goswami is explaining how Krishna actually became very pleased, very satisfied that finally, after so many decades, actually so many years, the rightful person, namely Yudhishthira Maharaj, was finally enthroned as the rightful emperor. So in the purport, Prabhupada elaborates on this point, that actually the Lord has a plan, the Lord has a mission, and when that plan is not followed, then there is this constant duality between individuals who are basically self-centered. When Krishna becomes our center, we create harmony. When we become center, we create disharmony. And this harmony is thus creating competition between individuals, between communities, between nations. And when we are the center, means when our senses are not satisfied because others are seen as our competitors, then this example is given here. Just like in the forest, a fire will erupt at different times because of the friction that is there between bamboos, isn't it? So in a similar way, the friction that is caused between individuals, between countries and between nations, creates animosity. This friction is based on anger. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha. You find this verse. Kama Esha, Krodha Esha. When Kama is not, when the material desires are not fulfilled, we become angry. And then we we express that anger to others, and it creates all kinds of conflict and disruption within society. That is the root cause, actually, of all the problems in the world. We are we're not properly fixed in where we should be concentrating on. We are not understanding what is actually the plan of the Lord. We are going on with our own individual plans, which naturally will conflict with the plans of others. So a devotee means someone who is endeavoring to understand the plan and the mission of the Lord and working towards fulfilling and helping to establish that mission of the Lord. And until that mission is fulfilled, then we can expect all kinds of disruption or conflicts, which, as we can see, as we can all understand, is happening in the world today on a massive scale, isn't it? When people are angry, they have heated discussion. We say heated discussion. And that sometimes breaks out in terms of a war or actual physical violence, isn't it? Which is not beneficial to anyone. Did you find that verse? Give it to me. You should be able to. There is. Yeah.
Chapter 3, verse 37.
Page 203. That's from chapter 3, entitled Karma Yoga, text 37. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha
Kama Esha Krodha Esha
Kama Esha Krodha Esha
Rajaguna Samudbhavaha
Rajaguna Samudbhava
Mahashano Mahapatma
Mahashana Mahapatma
Vidyenam Iha Vairinam.
Vidyanam Eha Vairinam.
The Blessed Lord said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath." Wrath means anger, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So this is one of so many important verses from the Bhagavad Gita describing that when the world or when individuals in the world are not following dharma, then they are on the bodily platform and they are in this constant competition with one another, which results in all kinds of very disturbing situations, which ultimately end up in actual wars, isn't it? So, Sutta Goswami is beginning his response to Shonaka Rishi by mentioning how Krishna becomes pleased and satisfied when personalities like Yudhishthira Maharaj are put into power, are directing society. So in other words, that is part of what the devotees of the Lord must endeavor for, is to create a situation in the world where the principles of dharma will be followed, isn't it? Just like one of the important principles of dharma is that cows should be protected. So it is, unless someone is understanding the basic principles of dharma, one will not be able to accept or understand this. That's why, at least in a place or in a country like India, where the basic knowledge of dharma is still to some extent followed, India should become the first country to establish mother cow as the animal that is meant to be most protected, isn't it? Not only the cow, we were discussing how that's nicely explained in the beginning of this first canto of the Bhagavatam. There are certain living entities who require more care, more attention, more protection, such as brahmanas, women, children, those who are elderly, those who are diseased, and cows, because they are very much dependent on others. So this is the, we could say, the primary mission of the Lord. Part of his mission in appearing or descending in this world, as also expressed in the Bhagavad Gita. Dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So it is the primary responsibility of those who are devotees, those who claim to be devotees, those who want to be recognized or known as devotees, need to strive continuously to actually understand what is dharma, to understand what is the plan of the Lord. And that is why we have acharyas, isn't it? Our Vaishnav acharyas in particular have a very clear and deep understanding of what is dharma. And therefore, by hearing from such personalities, we can learn to follow in their footsteps. And ultimately, just like the whole battle of Kurukshetra, how many years did it take for the battle of Kurukshetra? I mean, it was fought for only 18 years, but how many years did it take to build up for that battle of Kurukshetra? We know that Arjuna was about the same age as Krishna, right?
Yes.
They were, about the same age. Yudhishthira and Bhima were elder. Therefore, when Krishna would meet, he would he would offer his respects to Yudhishthira because he's older, and then Nakul and Sahadev, they would offer their respects to Krishna because they were younger, like that. So the point being that the battle of Kurukshetra was fought when Krishna was how old? 95. So the whole build-up, we could say, in other words, it took that many years to re-establish, isn't it, the kingdom. And of course, it was during that time that, especially as we were reading in the previous chapter, Bhishma Dev was present and was trying in different ways actually to help restore the kingdom so that the rightful heir, which means the sons of Pandu, who were still very, very young when Pandu passed away. So it means that sometimes it will take many years of all kinds of intrigues and diplomacies and all kinds of, we could say, injustices, because during all of these years, from maybe I'm not sure exactly how old were the Pandavas, for example, when Pandu passed away. They were young boys, yes. Isn't it? And because soon after the passing away of Pandu, then Kunti Devi came to Hastinapur with her children to take shelter, isn't it? And from that moment, the rivalry began between Duryodhana and the Pandavas, between all of the sons of Dhritarashtra. So maybe, let's say, average 10, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly, but it means that from the age of 10, approximately, the Pandavas, they had to wait 85 years, isn't it? During this period of 80, 85 years, whatever, so many kinds of injustices were committed, isn't it? I mean, there's a whole list of dangers that they were put into, and their lives were threatened, etc., etc. So it means that very often it will take a long time for justice to be, just like now in Kali Yuga, the situation is such that we are far, general society is far, far removed from understanding and following Dharma. And as a result, there are so many calamities, there's so many wars, especially at this time, very critical time. But for devotees, we know that ultimately, unless and until the knowledge and the principles of Dharma are known and followed, then society will simply go on in this very chaotic kind of condition. So that is one of the important goals for devotees. That is one of the important, Prabhupada actually expressed on so many occasions, that we as a society, International Society of Krishna Consciousness, we are meant to um, help restore or reestablish the principles of Dharma. And that is primarily done by through education, actually, isn't it? By educating our own devotees and by educating people in general, and also by showing by example. It's just like in the early days, although most parents of devotees, especially in the Western world, who knew nothing about Vedic culture, who knew nothing about who is Krishna, you know, when they saw some of their children join and become devotees, they were very perplexed. But when they would, very often, many parents actually visited the temples because their daughter or their son were there. And some of the parents actually met Srila Prabhupada also. And many, it's been recorded, some interviews are there, some statements are there. Many of the parents, when they visited the temple, they could see that, oh, these people I don't know anything about their philosophy. I don't know anything about Vedic culture. I mean, the word Veda is not a common, now it's become more known, more common. But in those, 50 years ago, most of the words, even Krishna or karma and yoga was known a little bit because yoga is kind of more universal and was practiced since many, many years. So many of the parents, simply by visiting some of our temples and by coming in contact with devotees, they could understand, oh, this is a very nice place, people are very nice, and so even though they could not understand so much of the philosophy, they could appreciate that this type of way of living, before my son or before my daughter became a devotee, they were doing so many nonsense activities. And now it's like, what happened? It's like some miracle. Now they're getting up in the morning early. Before that, they were sleeping till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning because they would only go to bed at Mangal Arti time. So, in other words, the more we can interact with those who are yet not devotees, those who are not familiar with the Vedic culture, those who don't know about Krishna consciousness, then they will get opportunity to know what is Vedic culture, what is Krishna consciousness, what is ultimately also the purpose of this movement. Of course, the primary purpose is to develop, awaken our dormant Krishna consciousness, at the same time to favor or to facilitate that this take place. If we have a society that is well organized, if we have responsible leaders in society, especially if we have responsible presidents, etc., like that. So therefore, I think in the purport here, Prabhupada is mentioning about, very interesting. Lord Lord Shri Krishna descended to establish this sort of regime. So what does it mean, this sort of regime? It's in the middle, close to the end actually. Lord Shri Krishna descended to establish this sort of regime. This sort of regime, you know what regime means? What's another word for regime?
Democracies.
Huh? Huh?
Reasons.
No.
Systematic plan. Systematic plan.
Yes. So you're looking at the dictionary.
Yes.
Yeah. Naturally, they'll put democracy there, but the actual regime that Krishna wants to establish is not democracy. The regime, Vedic regime or system, is monarchy.
Yes.
Is varnashrama,
Yes.
isn't it? Is the basic understanding that the purpose of life is to become tattva brahma jigyasa, to become self-realized, isn't it? So, in other words, one of the purposes of Krishna's advent in the world, of course, ultimate purpose is to, yes, reawaken our dormant love for Krishna, but to facilitate, isn't it? To facilitate and to use the very word that Prabhupada was using in one of the purports in the previous chapter, to accelerate. What does it mean to accelerate?
Speed up.
Huh?
Speed up.
Speed up, yeah. To make things happen more quickly.
Yes.
To make things happen more quickly, this was one of the first instructions given by grandfather Bhishmadev to Yudhishthira Maharaj that Prabhupada comments on when he begins to explain the different natural divisions in society, isn't it? That ideal society is meant to be organized in this way. They're meant to be qualified spiritual persons that are called brahmanas. They're meant to be qualified material and spiritual qualified persons. They're called kshatriyas, like that. So this is a very important point, that the more this is in place, the more we have individuals or who are receiving this type of training, this type of education, this will accelerate. This will speed up, to use your expression. This will speed up. This will make things happen more quickly, isn't it? More things happen more quickly means when there is a qualified leader, then things get done, isn't it? Things get done according to how they're meant to take place. So whole purpose actually in the Vedic culture is to train such individuals who can become qualified not only as leaders, isn't it? Vedic culture is making this knowledge available to everyone to become qualified. To become qualified either as a leader, and what is the other? What is the other way? Yes. If you have only qualified leaders and no qualified followers, things won't work. If you have only qualified followers but no leader, also, so both are needed. So the same thing, that's a basic component of education, which Krishna speaks about actually in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. That's a basic qualification for teacher and student, for guru and disciple, isn't it? Teacher must be qualified, student must be qualified, guru must be qualified, disciple must be qualified. It's not only that the teacher is qualified. If he has students who have no interest to learn, what he will teach them,
Yes, yes.
isn't it? That's why in Vedic culture, the teacher or guru will test and just take those who are really qualified to learn,
Yes, yes.
who have some basic qualifications, which are delineated, which are explained in the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Proper mental disposition, pranipat. That verse is giving us
Yes, yes.
the three qualifications. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Then this understanding, this realization of tattvadarshan, this understanding, this vision of tattva, of what is. So part of tattva, dharma is tattva, isn't it? So therefore, as devotees, we have to constantly have this in mind, that in order for Krishna to become satisfied, the point is being made here also. Sutta Goswami is telling that, yes, because finally, the right person, Yudhishthira Maharaj, became the recognized leader, the emperor. So therefore, Krishna naturally became very pleased and satisfied. So in a similar way, it means part of our endeavor to please Krishna is to work towards, just before you came, we were mentioning how it took something like 85 years for this to happen. You know, the Battle of Kurukshetra, it was built up over many, many years, which means that devotees, if such great personalities as the Pandavas had to be put into so much of great difficulties, then who are we? They're all saintly persons. They're all pure devotees,
Yes.
and they were put in so much problem. We're all rascals, and we expect things to kind of happen immediately. So that is the nature of this world. This is also nicely explained here. This constant anger that is within each individual, actually, until and unless someone knows and realizes that he's an eternal servant of Krishna, he must be angry. He must be in conflict with others, because he poses himself as the center of what is important, isn't it? I mean, that is the problem with ahankara, false ego.
Yes.
False ego forces us in so many ways to do things that are in conflict, isn't it, with others. So my false ego will naturally come in conflict with your false ego, and boom, So therefore, even as devotees, because we're not immediately, completely, devoid of our false ego, but that is what we are endeavoring to do as we become more and more successful in applying Krishna consciousness. We are reducing, we are gradually doing away with our false ego. And until that false ego is completely eradicated, then we can expect at some time different types of conflict, different types of opposition, competition. which sometimes erupt in harsh words between individuals and sometimes in physical fighting, which is of course not at all desirable, and which simply continues to create enmity or animosity between individuals. So if we want to really, most important instruction also in the Bhagavad Gita, if we want to actually attain peace and harmony within society, then Bhoktaram Jagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheswaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvamam Shantim Richiti. We have to put Krishna in the center. We have to understand that Krishna is that personality who is meant to be served, because he is the Bhokta, he is the enjoyer. We are not meant to be independent enjoyers. Automatically, satisfaction will be there if we understand this principle. So these basic teachings of Dharma, which we find in the Bhagavad Gita, are what actually individuals and what the world is in dire need of in order to actually resolve the individual, family, community, and major conflicts that are there actually in the world today. So just to read again the text, this is Sutta Goswami who's beginning, immediately responding to the question being asked by Shonaka, that what happened, how did Yudhishthira Maharaj rule his kingdom? And Sutta Goswami is replying, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the maintainer of the world, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Mahesh, he is the Maheshwara, became pleased after re-established Maharaj Yudhishthira in his own kingdom and after restoring the Kuru dynasty, which had been exhausted by the bamboo fire of anger. Nice expression. Bamboo fire of anger. So any thoughts or questions on this? Well. Yes.
Can I read the portion of the purport from the 26th verse, 9th chapter?
26th verse?
It's there where the acceleration of transcendental qualities is mentioned. It's really nice. It really fits.
From?
It's the 9th chapter.
Bhagavad Gita.
The instruction of Bhishmadeva about to accelerate the transcendental qualities.
Okay, it's a previous chapter.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
The conception of 4 castes and 4 orders of life, as planned by the Lord Himself, Bhagavad Gita 4.13, is to accelerate transcendental qualities
Yes.
of the individual person, so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage or conditional life.
Yes.
So, Guru Maharaj, is it correct understanding that we cannot actually destroy the false ego, but we should replace it with identity of a devotee, like of a servant? I heard that.
We can destroy the false ego, because until and unless we reestablish there is false and then there is real, right? The opposite of false is true. We are endeavoring by our practice of bhakti, of devotional service, to reestablish the true ego. What is the true ego? Jiver Swarup Hoy, Krishna Nityadas, isn't it? Yeah. So that's why I'm sure you've heard that expression, die before you die, isn't it? We have to make that false ego, what is it? The false ego, false conception, we have to destroy, isn't it? That false conception of who we are, and that is only possible by replacing that false conception with the true conception. That means replacing darkness with light, or replacing ignorance with knowledge. Right? So the whole Bhagavad Gita, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, is giving us this vidya, this transcendental knowledge. And in the case of the Vedic culture, I would say differently from other, let's say, books of knowledge, not only are we getting this transcendental knowledge, but we're also getting knowledge about Krishna's material creation, and how the more we cooperate, the more we live in harmony with Krishna's material arrangement, which is a very big topic, actually, because in modern day society, just taking a very simple example of, let's say, modern agriculture, isn't it? We are experimenting. We have been for the last century or so with this unnatural, artificial way of farming, by using chemicals, by using machines, etc., like that. And because that is not in keeping with dharma, not in line with what is written in the Shastra, so therefore we're getting the kind of destructive results on a very, on a massive scale throughout the world. So, in other words, as devotees, not only are we promoting, because sometimes we hear the expression that Krishna consciousness is is giving us the spiritual solution to all the problems, which is true, but at the same time, Krishna consciousness is giving us both the spiritual solution and the material solutions to all the problems in the world, because we are here in the material world, isn't it? Yeah. So there are ways, that is the whole meaning also of pravritim cha nivritim cha, janana vidur asura. Those who don't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. What is to be done on the spiritual platform, and what is to be done on the material platform, isn't it? So that is a unique feature of Vedic culture. That is a unique feature of the Vedas. The Vedas are giving us, isn't it, the Paravidya and the Paravidya, the full Vidya. The Paravidya, transcendental spiritual knowledge of the nature of the absolute truth, the nature of the Jiva, the nature of the Atma, and the nature of the Paramatma, the original personality of Godhead Krishna, and also all the knowledge that is needed, which is like even ourselves, for example, as devotees, so many things we don't know about material nature. So part of our education, part of Vedic education, is to learn how to balance these two levels. And of course, the root of all of that is to change, to transform, to replace the false ego, ahankara, to true ego of the spirit soul. Therefore, Vedic knowledge begins with aham brahmasmi. I am by nature spirit. And I just happen unfortunately, to be in the material world right now, where I'm covered by this material body, gross and subtle, and the root of that subtle body is this ahankara, the most difficult, you know. So therefore, as they say, we have our work cut out. We have a lot to do in terms of reversing this misconception of our false ego. So the what text was that? 27?
26.
26, huh?
1926.
1926. That's another important purport, especially that beginning, 1926. Another verse, at least a reference to remember, because that's very wonderful way that Prabhupada is expressing. You know, he's paraphrasing what Yudhishthira, what Grandfather Bhishmadev is telling, isn't it, to Yudhishthira Maharaj, by telling him that, okay, in the material world, there are these four social statuses of life, four spiritual divisions as well, means the varnas and the asramas. And Prabhupada is telling that, yes, this is Krishna's plan to accelerate our becoming ultimately Krishna conscious. This is the natural and perfect system, the most scientific system, because it's given by Krishna, that is meant to help all of us individually and collectively to realize our goal. And our goal, again, is twofold. Our goal, our primary goal, is to fully become Krishna conscious, to develop our love for Krishna. And our secondary goal is to create the most favorable situation and atmosphere that will be facilitating. So that's why Srila Prabhupada, for example, he would emphasize how health is very important. Every letter that Prabhupada would sign, your ever well wisher. I hope this finds you in good health. So that's why when we understand that this body doesn't belong to us, we have to maintain it in good health for the primary purpose of properly utilizing it in Krishna's service, isn't it? Yeah. So yes, that false ego, that's also nicely expressed in the second chapter of the first canto. Second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, Divinity and Divine Service. That whole series of verses beginning with Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Vidyanta Stoya Bhadrani Vidunuti Surit Satam, and then culminating in the verse right after Evam Prasana Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Jogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana Mukta Sangasya Jayate. What verse is that? 1, 2, maybe 19? Can you just check? 1, 2.
I have very slow connection.
Huh?
I have very slow connection.
See, that's our problem. We're not properly connected. Do you have 1, 2?
Yes.
What is 17? 1, 2, text number 17. Hey, what is 1, 2, 17? Read.
This Evan Prasanna Mansa is 1 to 20.
Okay, so that's okay. So 1 to 20, huh?
Yeah.
1 to 20. So read 21, because 21 is where the false ego gets completely crushed. Read 21.
21. Yes.
1 to 21.
Okay.
Read loudly.
विद्यते हृदये ग्रंथि छिद्यन्ते सर्व संशया श्रियन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट यवात्मनीश्वरे.
Translation, loud.
Thus the knot in the heart is
The
pierced.
Knot. Yeah.
Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of repetitive action is terminated when one sees the self as master.
Yes, that is re-establishing the true ego. There's false ego and true ego. Yeah. So the knot means this ahankar, this false ego, false understanding. So that's the culmination of the whole process. Decorations coming. So in other words, everything is very, both in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which complement one another, is all very clearly, very scientifically presented. We simply have to hear it. Well, not only hear it, we have to hear it attentively, and then we have to apply it. Hearing is itself not so easy. Hearing attentively even more difficult, and understanding and applying again another dimension. Yeah, but that's the process, and the more we follow that, then what is being mentioned here, how yes, the Lord descended to establish this sort of regime. This sort of regime means where there are Krishna conscious leaders in society who can properly direct individuals and society in general and give the proper spiritual knowledge as well as the proper material knowledge. So if we have only spiritual knowledge and don't understand our material situation, that is not good. Both are needed, and both can therefore become properly balanced. So for now we will close our Bhagavatam session. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Gaura Premanande. And the sun has come out. Let there be light.